What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be doing a beard tutorial on Kaleb right here. So he's giving me creative freedom to do whatever I want, and this was the last time we did his beard. Super crisp on top, lined up on the bottom, and if you look at his right side, it looks not a super C-scoop. So before you come after me, that was actually him doing some grooming at home. He does a lot of content around that, so we were growing that right side a little bit out to match the left side. So he said you can do whatever you want, and I thought I would take this opportunity to do something that I think would really complement his look. So he gave me creative freedom to do it. So I'm gonna start off with lining up the bottom. These are zero gap trimmers. This is the new FXONE Black FX. I received this maybe a month ago, so I've had a lot of good practice with it. As I'm doing the line work, especially underneath where someone's beard is a very sensitive area, I'm gonna put in a pretty soft line. As you can tell, I'm following the shape. I'm only doing one side first. And there's no right way of doing this. You can choose whichever direction you want. Right here, I flip it upside down. This is gonna be a lot more gentle on the skin, especially zero gap trimmers. I typically love all my tools being gapped because it allows me to get more of a seamless blend as I'm doing any of my work. So still, again, I'm still upside down. Now the back area is super important to me. I brush all the hair towards the growth pattern and the way he normally wears it. So I'm literally brushing this all down before I edge that back out. And again, this is my FX3 trimmer now, which I love using for edge ups. This is my sharpest trimmer that I have. And if you guys have been following me or are familiar with the Babeless lineup, then you know that gold blade comes from the red editions, which were extremely sharp. And I love that for any kind of lineups or edge work. So I swapped that blade to put it onto this blade. This one, I especially don't want to scrub that blade against the skin. This will cause a lot of irritation. It's very, very sharp. People notice it right away. Anytime I line anybody up, they're like, wow, I can really feel the blade. So I apologize on this side. I was blocking the light a little bit. So I'm going to continue creating that line. And as you can see, once the light starts to hit this spot again, you'll see the edge. And generally, this is actually something that took me a while to get used to doing when it came to beards. I was really nervous for a really long time before I actually got into it and enjoyed doing it, because to me, a beard process is literally like an entire new haircut. So for those barbers that I see charge only a $3 to $5 increase to add a beard, that's just insane to me because it takes me just as long to do it. I'm gonna repeat the same thing on this side of his face. I'm brushing all the hair towards the natural growth pattern. That back area grows out, as you can tell, so I'm gonna follow that. Okay, so now we go into the actual blending of the beard. I'm gonna start off with my lithiums. This has a gold titanium wedge blade on there, also one of my favorite blades. As I'm connecting this to the curls up at the top, it's pretty much disconnected. I'm just blending up to it because the long hair will pretty much sit over where the blend starts to happen. And I'm doing an open guard, trying to remove that top line first. And I'm really slow with this process because the last thing I want is to blend it too far that it makes this part of his beard look too much like a chin strap. So I'm really, really conscious of that. So because I'm doing this for the first time on him, I'm taking really small guidelines just to make sure I don't drop that line too far down. Because if we blend it too tight, that darkness only sitting on the bottom could look like a chin strap style beard. So now I'm in my 0.5 guard. The only guards I like using are the premiums from Babeless Pro. Those are my favorite. I love that they're not flexible. They're pretty much like a hard, I think it's like a fiberglass kind of plastic. And that's my go-to for most of my Babeless tools, minus the FX3, because the FX3 has their own guards. So again, 0.5, I'm running this up and I'm making sure I don't go into the outline, which is like the outside of his beard. And you can start to see everything get lighter. Now I'm in my number 1 guard, again, following the same thing. I'm making sure that I can see the consistency in the shadows. Like I'm looking for a nice even gradient. And his beard is pretty full, nothing too crazy as far as like growth patterns. Everything sits pretty nicely, so it makes it really easy to do his beard. Combing, as you can see, I'm combing with the growth patterns. I'm combing it with the growth patterns because that's how he normally wears it. He always brushes it kind of down and back. So I want to make sure that the way that I cut it is going to be the same exact way that he would wear it. And this is going to make sure that everything looks the best. So now I am in my 1 to 1.5. I should be switching over soon. Slowly moving through it. The goatee part, I've really come off the face because I don't want to go into that dark part yet. And I'll explain as we go on a little bit further about why we're doing that. So these lithiums right now, I did actually a blade swap. So you can kind of see that blue blade on there. So again, this is now we're in the 0.5. So the 0.5, I'm going back in. Anytime I do any kind of cuts, I go through a lot of refining. I go through that first pass, kind of like the hard guidelines, getting most of it all in. And then I go back in a second time to refine anything that stands out. And part of refining is something that maybe became more important to me after about 3 to 4 years in of actually getting like a lot of good practice. I noticed that I was able to now change my clientele and go from people that just wanted to come in quick to people that appreciated those details. So I started to really take my time in making sure I go through everything at least 1 to 3 times of a pass just to make sure I get it nice and tight. At the end of the day, it's your pride, it's your work. This is my signature as these clients are going out there. So I want to make sure I'm putting out my best work. So now you can really see the blade. The guards are already off. This is the MIM blade. I swapped it from the new gold, the gray Low Pro FX. Now I finished this top off with the trimmer. This is where I'm really going to blend that in. And I want a natural blend, so this is going to be no hard lines on top. I'm blending this into the skin without any foil. So that trimmer level, 0 gap, is going to be my tightest. Now I'm going to go and follow the back edge, and I'm going to razor that nice and clean. He's used to getting things really defined and sharp, so I still want to be able to give him that. So when you look at him from the side angle, you're going to see a nice crisp line, but from the front, you're going to see a nice natural blend. And I love that contrast. It doesn't always work on everybody, but when I do these type of styles of blends, what this does is it really extends somebody's jawline versus if we were to cut the line right on the bone, you kind of shrink somebody's chin area. So what I like is that in between of the jaw and the throat, to where you put that line in, it kind of expands it. And when you look at it from the side here, you can see the stretch of how wide we made it. So this is the UV single foil shaver, one of my favorites. See how it has one foil, so it fits really nicely in that back area. Kaleb has sensitive skin, but he can handle a foil shaver. And I always ask because people are going to know their skin more than, us just going into it. So I always ask, like, do you think you can handle a foil shaver? And then I can go about it. Now we're going to repeat the same exact thing on the other side. I'm going to go through the same process, but at least now you guys get to see it from a different perspective. So what do you guys think of these type of videos so far? I don't normally do a voiceover in this way, but I figured trying something out right here on YouTube that you guys can see a more in-depth tutorial on some of the stuff that I like to do, how I think about things, how I like to cut. I share some of these on TikTok and Instagram, so I'm wondering if this is the way to go here on YouTube as well. You guys let me know in the comments. Okay, so here now you can really see where I've separated underneath that curl to do a pretty much a disconnected line where I'm going to start that skin line and then blend it all the way back down. So same thing now, we're working our way back to our long length. I'm at my 0.5 and then I'm going to go into my 1, and my 1.5 is going to be my top guard length. And pretty much it's almost going to sit into his current length, what he came in with. That's pretty much what I'm blending it into, but I'm going with the grain rather than against the grain, just to keep that bottom area and the front just slightly darker in contrast. So when you look at it from the side now, you can start to see that separation. Instead of it being like a small chin area, we're stretching it out. And sometimes too, when we're doing it in a way that gives more of a natural finish, I feel that it lasts a little bit longer for people. It doesn't grow in so crazy. Now think about it when we have hard lines on top and somebody has a super full beard. Over a couple of days, you're gonna see that regrowth come back in. So what I like with like more of a softer finish like this, having it more natural, I love that at least from the front side of their face and the side angle, that you can see a slower transition coming in versus like the crispy line and then also the little stubbles right next to it. I think that contrast sometimes makes it feel like it's growing out so fast. And I mean, that's the plus side of barbers, is that the clients that you're dealing with are going to come in a whole lot faster, especially if you do skin fades or skin tapers. That regrowth is going to come back in versus like people that get more lived in looks. They don't have to get a cut every single week. They can wait it out longer until it grows back in, and it kind of grows a little bit softer and slower. So it just really depends. But for some of the clients who prefer super crispy, super clean, they're probably going to be more of your weekly and bi-weekly type of clients. And then it also depends on what type of work they do. For some people that are on TV, like I've always known those people get a cut every week, and that's just part of their job. But for most people, I think it can range from your weeklies to your once a month to your every other month. So the range is there, and so are the price points. And so that's the thing with detailing, because people trust it. Whenever I post anything, it allows me to get the clientele that are very particular. And whether you're particular or whether you're open, those are my two favorites because they're both different extremes. I don't mind somebody that says, I don't know what I want you to recommend it. And then I also love clients that are like, this is exactly what I want, do this. So I'm pretty open when it comes to that range. And if anything, that just challenges my creativity and my skill to make every single cut fit to that person differently. Although it could be the same style, I think what people always enjoy when I ask questions about like why they move from one barber to the next is that you can take something simple, but you make it their own, you know? And same thing with Kaleb here. He never really gets this. And usually, like I said, he does a lot of self-grooming at home. But in this case, because I did a blend on his beard, more than likely, most clients are not going to be able to do that unless they've been able to practice fading for a while on themselves, because I have seen people be able to perfect a good blend, but it is very difficult to do on your own. Unless you're a barber. I've seen barbers be able to do that by themselves. Okay, so back to the tutorial. We're doing all of our finishing touches now. I am brushing everything back down. This is my second pass of refining. Again, I got my FX3 out to do all of those little things. Now, this is where we're gonna create a darker area in the goatee area. So we have, I think this is a 1.5 right now. And we're taking it down slowly because we weren't actually sure how short we wanted to go right there. So I started off with a 1.5. And then I went back down to a 1. I think he ended up deciding a 1 or a 0.5 would be okay to just keep it slightly lighter, mustache still being dark, and blending most of that darkness into the chin area, which I thought would be a cool contrast. Now already you can see that that blend on the side. I think it looks so good on him. Again, with the underneath, we got to do a second pass. For me, I want to make sure I get that line nice and right. So I'm going back in again. And this is an area where you can lay them back on a headrest. This would help. It's a lot harder when somebody fully stretches their neck out to do that line. So I usually have them sit kind of straight and then just a slow tilt before the skin stretches out too far. And this allows me to see a nice clean line underneath. And as you can see there, I took my FX3, flipped it around, and got off that excess just to make sure I don't like cut any of the skin. And what I'm looking to do anytime I do any type of tightening around sensitive areas like the beard, mustache, right around the ear, is I'm trying not to leave any redness on the skin. To me, that's me being careful. That's me being very conscious of every move, because the last thing I want to do is irritate anybody's skin. And also when it comes to taking videos and pictures of your work, people are going to notice if the skin is really red and irritated. That just means that we're a little bit too aggressive on the hand maybe, right? So now I see looking up right here, you can see the line. It doesn't curve with his jawline, which is not my personal preference of style for a beard, but you know, it's taken me a long time to even get comfortable to this point to be able to shape somebody's facial hair. And it took me maybe a few years to get comfortable with it, and having extra help from some coworkers. Okay, so we're gonna lighten up the beard. I think he wanted a 1.5. We go against the grain first to just lighten it up. Brushing is always going to help. Anytime you work with really short hair, those little hairs can look like they're there and they're not. So having a fade brush is always going to help you really remove any excess hair that fell off, just to make sure you don't cut into a new place. Okay, so for this tip right here, we ended up going in with a 0.5 to just soften just these edges right here. Now we're going to line it up. FX3 again for the win, being the sharpest trimmer that I have. And again, with the top line, we're gonna bring that down a little bit. Now, whenever I do any filming sessions, you will see that my clients are completely talking a lot. And that's just because the filming session sometimes takes a while, and I don't want people to be bored. So we're usually having conversations, and they're not just talking to themselves. We're actually having a conversation about just like social and things like that. All right, we're gonna finish this off with a razor edge. We're gonna keep that nice and tight. This part really took me a while to get comfortable. I think it was always uncomfortable to know how to stretch the skin. So something that helped me in this area is allowing them to also help us stretch the skin. So I would have them tuck their lip so that they could stretch the skin a little bit more than me having to like squeeze in there and tighten up the skin. So we're letting him check it out now. As you can tell, that contrast is pretty cool because you got a nice tight beard with a natural blend. And as you can tell here, we blended this out and forward. Match that with his curls. I think it's a really cool contrast on him. Again, last finishing touches. I can never refine enough, so I do this a lot, especially right here. We have his Adam's apple, and I want to be really careful. So finishing off with some bay rum alcohol on any area that I used a razor or any sharp trimmer, just to use as a way to close up the pores and keep it nice and clean. Now you guys can see, again, some last finishing touches. And there you have it. Look at that blend, super natural. Love it from the front. You got all that darkness on the bottom. So as far as the tools go and anything like that, if you like any of the tools that I use, I will make sure to put them in the description on the bottom so you know what I use and what kind of blades. And then if you guys want to support me in this video, you guys can check out my Amazon storefront. I will leave the link in my description. This is all of my favorite cutting tools, styling tools, content creation tools. If you guys shop on Amazon like I do, it would help that you click on those links. I will always update the storefront with all the things that I like to use. Definitely check it out when you can if you're looking for a way to upgrade your equipment and your cutting tools or anything like that. Make sure to check out my Amazon storefront. Again, it'll be in the bottom. If you guys enjoyed this video the way I was able to talk through it this time, let me also know what you guys think now that you've gotten through to the end of the video. And other than that, I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.